these are my foundation recommendations if you have fair skin. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In this video, I'm going to be showcasing 10 foundation products that I think are going to be great for you if you haven't tried them yet, if you have fair skin. Sometimes it's a question of like shade ranges when you have fair skin, but sometimes it's a formula thing as well. I've seen so many people saying things like, makeup doesn't look good on you if you're pale, makeup doesn't work for you, foundations all look dry and cakey and makeup-y. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, you're not used to seeing as many people with very pale skin who wear a lot of makeup. I really feel like sometimes I'm the exception to the rule here. And I also think that there's just no, like, a lot of the people seem to want very full coverage things. And I feel that if you, use some application techniques to help your skin and you choose the right formula for your skin type, that it can still look right on you, even if you are very fair skinned. So if you are someone who's like, I've got pale skin, I struggle finding a good shade match for myself, but I also struggle with my makeup looking just not quite right, this video is for you. So I will be doing a swatch on the back of my hand of these really quickly for you right here live as in sitting here. But if you are curious what the best shade matches are for me, I did a video about that a couple of months ago, so I will be putting that in the video in the description box down below, because then I filmed it like blending it down my neck and you can really see what the shade match is like. This video isn't just about shade matches. For me, a good foundation also boils down to formula very much. And I have found that it's very difficult to find a foundation that has the right shade and also a good foundation and a good formula that is then also not super expensive. So you do have to be aware that a lot of the options here today are going to cost you a little bit more money. But as someone with fair skin who's tried almost every single foundation in the drugstore, it's just a struggle for me to find a really good shade match. And the things that I have from the drugstore in my makeup collection are discontinued. So there are a couple of things here from the drugstore that I do like, but depending on how pale you are, your shade may not be there. And especially if you are a cool toned, fair skinned person, or even worse, if you have an olive undertone to your fair skin, it's going to be very difficult to find a really good shade match at the drugstore, because everything at the drugstore is yellow and therefore warm toned. They very often do not do very many undertones, which is why for me, when it comes to foundation, I tend to splurge in that category a little bit more, because it's only in higher end lines where I have been able to find my true shade match to begin with. And sure, you can adapt a shade by adding a bit of blue to make it more cool toned, like if you have a blue color corrector, or you can add a bit of green to help with like redness, or you can add a bit of white foundation. But I've done this in the past, but I have found that I really struggle getting the right amount of the color I need to add. So sometimes I love the way my makeup looks when I blend my own shades, and sometimes I absolutely hate it. So I was like, oh right, okay. So I can buy these very cheap foundations and then buy loads of other products to mix my own shade, or I can spend my money on one really good product and I just need to pick and choose a little bit more carefully. If you are looking to buy a new foundation, it is my recommendation to try and go into store so you can swatch things and you can see things in real life. And if an MUA does apply something to your face, see if you can go outside to check in real daylight what the shade looks like on your face, because even within the lighting that you have in your makeup stores, you will not be able to tell what something looks like on you. Also not on the back of your hand. With foundation, it's just really important that your face and your neck matches. And I definitely think that that's one of the reasons why so many fair-skinned people struggle to find their foundation shades or struggle with finding good foundations, because I feel that the norm, even till this day, is to be a little bit more tan if you do live in a Western country. People use fake tan, people either tan by the sun, whatever it is. Everybody wants to look more bronzed, because if you look bronzed and a little bit more warm toned, you look more healthy. That's the sort of thing that's been going on in people's brains for a very long time. You need to let go of that notion. just embrace the pale skin, please. Embrace the pale skin and find yourself a foundation that is a match. So if we're talking about shade matches, I actually have two that I really like on me. And like I said, these are really good shade matches for me, but they are going to be a little bit more expensive. And it's these two. It's the Hauslabs Triclone foundation in the shade 060 Fair Warm. Don't be fooled by shade names. Hauslabs line does the similar thing that the MAC foundation shade line does as well, which is to have shades or shade names that do something differently from what you might expect. So here is what Fair Warm looks like on my skin, and then if I blend it out a little bit, you can see that it's got a little bit of like something almost peachy to it. Like I always say I'm like cool to neutral, but as you can see, like even on the back of my hand, it just blends away and it looks seamless. This also doesn't oxidize on me. That is my issue with a lot of other foundations, is that a lot of them tend to oxidize. And then after about an hour or so, when they truly dry down, that's when they start to look discolored. So also if you have fair skin, don't just buy something the minute they put something on your face. You need to walk around with it for about an hour just to see what it might look like once it has fully dried down. Because something that may look like your shade match at first may not be your shade match once it has a bit of time to work with your skin. The Hauslabs I really enjoy. It is a very thick, quite moisturizing formula, I find, so it may not be good for you if you have oily skin. I myself have pretty dry skin, so that idea of like everything is accentuated when I wear a very pale foundation, it looks dry and cakey and my pores become more visible. That's why I sometimes like a darker foundation shade, is what I've heard like a lot of people saying. But I have found that if you find the right formula for you, this will not happen, which is why I have some other recommendations in a bit. The other one I love for its shade match is the Fenty Beauty. This is the Soft Lit Foundation in 125. I tend to love more hydrating foundations simply because I have that drier skin type. But as you will see in a bit, I do like a little bit of glow as well. So here's what 125 looks like. And I like to, like, as you can see again, this like nicely blends into the back of my hand. This is a little bit more yellow toned than the Hauslabs is. It still works for me. It's probably not going to be pink toned enough for some people. I have heard that sort of critique of the Fenty Beauty line, but this one works for me quite well. And this just, yeah, has a pretty good undertone for it to match everything that I have going on. The foundation that's on my face is another quite like good sort of in between formula wise. I find this isn't like super hydrating. This is a pretty good all-rounder, and it's the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Foundation. This is really beautiful on. It's what's on my face today. So this you can see, I put it in my Shop My Stash because for 2026 I decided that again I wanted to try and see if I could use up some foundations. And this is the contender for that. So this is in a sort of project pan. I just feel that because this comes in really weird packaging, I'm just not reaching for it. And I had it sitting in its box for such a long time because then you can keep it upright. And I was like, you know what? I just need to put it in a project pan, see how much I can use it this year, and I should be good to go. This is in the shade 5, and as you can see, it's even a little bit more yellow toned than the other ones. It's more of a neutral one, but this was the first time where I was really fooled by the shade ranges when I first saw this launch. What's really good with this Lisa Eldridge foundation is that you can get sample cards. Again, a pretty good shade match for me. You can get sample cards from the websites, and they come in like 4s. So you can buy like the sample card, or if you place an order, you can get one for free, I believe, of the sample card that you think is closest to you. And since, as long as I can remember, I'm usually one of the lightest shades in a foundation. I very often struggle even finding my shade in a foundation. Like, for instance, with the Maybelline Skin Tint and also the L'Oreal Skin Tint that I've tried, even the lightest shade that I can get my hands on is too dark, which is because they're beautiful formulas, but it's just too dark for my skin tone. And with this one, I had gotten the sample card with shades 1, 2, 4 on it, and they all looked wrong on me. And the reasons why they looked wrong on me was because they were simply too pale. So I was just not used being able to find a shade that's like a little up from what the entire line has to offer. So this was the first time I had that happen to me. And again, it does have a slight yellow tone to it, but when the MUA put this on my face, I was actually wearing a different foundation that day, and they just took a little bit off. You can clearly see the difference between this one and the other one. So even though it does have a slight yellow undertone, it actually works quite well for me year round. So I'm really happy with that. As you can see, it doesn't look like I've got anything going on here on my neck. It's a really good shade match. So it nicely ties everything together. So that's why I do really enjoy that. But with especially these brands that have these super extensive shade ranges with like 40 or 50 shades of foundation, I really recommend trying to go in store to swatch it and therefore pick your shade. Because with the Hauslabs foundation, I would have picked a completely different shade online. And when I got to store and I saw it, it was far too yellow toned. So that's why I got to 060 warm. And even the makeup artist who helped me out at Sephora in London was surprised that this was the best shade match for me. And with the Lisa Eldridge foundation, the same thing. Like, very often if I go into store, even the MUAs don't know how to match me. Because they're like, no way you're that light. And I'm like, yes, I'm that light. Especially when I'm not wearing any foundation, I have quite a lot of redness going down the center of my face. And very often, because people like look at you head on, they don't really see that that's then the shade you need to be. So that's why I'm always like testing it here. And that's how I can tell like if a makeup artist actually knows their stuff or not. So those were like 3 things that I really like. But as I mentioned, I think formula is really, really helpful when it comes to your like shade match and what a foundation looks like on. Which is why everything else that I have for you in this video today are all going to be hydrating, sometimes even slightly glowy formulas. And this is what I think you really need if you have fair skin and you're struggling with everything showing up on you. Adding a bit of glow and not going for something that is too satin or too matte is simply going to create the illusion of there not being any texture. It's why I love so much glow in my, like, this is not the glowiest foundation that is in this overview today. Like, this is quite satin. It's sort of like borderline what I feel I can get away with. But I have just found that if anything is too matte for me, it doesn't look right. It's going to accentuate everything. So that's why I like something that has a bit of glow, something that's slightly light reflective, because I find that the light reflection makes my skin look a lot better. I get some comments sometimes that people want to know my skincare routine, or they want to know like what's on your skin because it looks amazing. It's because I choose formulas that work for me. Okay. So one thing that I would recommend, and this is actually quite affordable, is the Charlotte Tilbury dupe by Catrice. This is the Soft Glam Filter Fluid, but e.l.f. does a version of this, of course. That one is not very light, though. I find that the e.l.f. one is far too dark, even in the shade extension that they have done. I've swatched some of those shades in store, and some of those are still too dark for me. But there's loads of brands who've been doing this. Too Faced just came out with something like this. Of course, there's the original, the Charlotte Tilbury Filter Fluid, or Hollywood Flawless Filter. I think ever since e.l.f. started duping that product, almost every brand on the market has come out with a product like this. However, for me, the Catrice beats them all. And the reason why I like this so much is because this one is really, really good at adding a bit of coverage. So whereas a lot of these like glowy, primery kind of things work really well either as a highlight or as a primer, this is the first one that I have found. It just comes with the doe foot like the other ones do. What I have found with this one is if I want to go for a very lightweight makeup day and I just don't want to be bothered with too much, that this is beautiful. I have mine in 010 Fair Light and it works beautifully. It looks a little bit peachy, but it's really when you start blending it out, like it has a little bit of coverage, not too much, and then it just has a really beautiful shine. And it's the shine that's going to give you the illusion of less texture. So that's why I really like dewy and glowy sort of foundations, because I just really feel it makes my skin look a lot better than it actually does. So I always get dryness around my nose. I have a lot of texture on my cheeks. I'm 40 years old, well 41 actually. I'm already in my 40s. So there's a little bit of lines and wrinkling going on and all that. But these foundations just work really well for me, just to create the illusion of having better skin than I actually do. There's that for sure. Then another thing I love is any sort of like skin tint. So I've got a couple here that I really think is great. You can choose, again, so many brands started doing skin tints, so you don't need these. But I've got a higher end option and a drugstore option for you. That really surprised me. But the first one I've ever tried is the Glossier skin tint. This is really good. Mine is in still the old shade. I need to do it like this, you guys, because else I'm going to have it spread all over my clothes. But I love that it's just a bit of a drop. This is, again, very sheer. It's almost like water with a bit of pigment. So if you like something a little bit fuller coverage, this may not be the tip for you, but of course you could see if you could add like a glowy primer or anything like that to your more full coverage foundations. However, what I have found though is that if you do that, it does take away a little bit of the coverage. But like I said, I choose lower coverage foundations over full coverage and super matte. I prefer lightweight, dewy things because I just feel it works better with my skin. So that could be worth a chance. Don't try to cover everything up with your foundation is what I'm trying to say. Use your concealer wisely to cover up the things you still need covering up after you've done your foundation. It's going to be a lifesaver. And if you do have any sort of redness, sometimes having a foundation, even if you have a cool tone, even if you have a cool undertone, sometimes having a foundation with a little bit of yellow in can actually help cover the redness better than when you go for a super pink tone. So sometimes having a slightly different undertone, and then if you do the rest of your makeup, it still looks okay, you can still get away with it kind of thing. Or of course you can first go in with a green corrector over the red and then apply your foundation as needed. So there's another way to do it. And that way you can keep all the layers super lightweight, because I definitely think it also has to do with how much you apply. I tend to be a half a pump kind of gal. Only with the Lisa Eldridge, I feel I need a little bit more, because if I pump, like that pump is pretty like tough, so you can really sort of control how much comes out. And when I like press my finger down twice, it's like the amount of foundation I get is like equal to like half a pump to a pump of a normal foundation. So it really depends. So that's also why I like squeezy tubes and stuff, so you can really control how much you're getting. But this is the Essence Skin Tint. This is in shade 10. And this, it looks really yellow. Like if you look at it in the tube, you're going like, oh, that's so yellow. But this is actually a really beautiful formula. It looks a little bit dark, but what this does, and I have found that this works with some foundations as well. You can see it a little bit like where I haven't blended it much. It's much darker. But the more you blend this and work it into the skin, the lighter it goes. The lighter it goes. So don't just look at a tube and think, oh, that's going to be too dark for me, because this just needs a little bit of working in. So sometimes it can also work. So this is how I apply my foundation, right? I always squirt it out on the back of my hand. I use this as a bit of a makeup palette. And then I first use my fingers to like warm up the product a little bit on the back of my hand. And then I use my fingers to spread it all over my face first. You can also use a spatula if you don't want to use fingers. And then I use a brush to even it out. And I swear it's the best way to apply any sort of foundation product, I find. Because it means you get a really nice even layer. With your fingers, you have the heat of your fingers to really control how it is sort of like worked into the skin. I would stay away from beauty blenders if you can help it. Beauty blenders actually take away a lot of the coverage as well. If you dampen a beauty blender, like they're really, really good for diffusing very high coverage foundations and to make them look a little bit more skin-like. But I find that if you're using a lighter weight foundation, you can actually take away most of what the foundation does, and it makes them less glowy. So a beauty blender, if that's the way you're going, maybe try a slightly different technique. And the kind of brush I use, I love using like a brush that has a bit of an angle to it. So that has like a little bit of a bit of give, because I feel like that surface makes it so easy for blending out my foundation. So that's why I love that. Of course, we cannot do a video about foundation without talking about cushion foundations and BB creams, because I love these. BB creams especially, those were my ticket into trying foundations. Up until I tried this particular BB cream, it was this, not this exact one, because this was over 15 years ago. So, but this has been in my makeup collection. Like when it expires, I replace it, I buy it again. This is the first ever product I ever tried that my sensitive skin didn't react to. I had tried high-end foundations at that point, drugstore foundations that were out at the time, and nothing worked for me because it would always break me out, look really dry and cakey, look weird. The shade was off. But then I tried the Misha BB Perfect Cover BB cream in, well, at the time shade 13, which I found out was a bit too light for me. But shade 21 is actually a really good match. Now this is one of the classic BB creams, and one of the most heard critiques about BB creams that were around like 15 years ago was that they were gray and that they gave a lot of people a white cast. This is an issue if you have any skin tone that's deeper than like light to medium. Like if you're light skinned, you can still get away with this. But the minute you hit like medium skin tone, this is not going to look right for you. But I find that this shade, even though it looks like it looks gray, but that makes it very cool toned, and that makes it work really well with my super fair skin. And then it has that hint of glow. It has SPF in. Of course, you're not ever going to apply enough foundation or BB cream to get the benefits of the sunscreen, but still, it's the thought that counts. It's a pretty thick formula. It's beautiful though, and till this day in 2026, I still rate this super highly, to the point where, together with the Lisa Eldridge, I was like, you know what? I've had this tube for quite some time, so it's time for me to start like using this a bit more. But this is such a good shade, and I really still love this product. And if I've loved something for 15 years, you know it's a keeper. There's a reason why this was the first time where I felt my skin looked amazing, even besides the fact that it didn't break me out or like leave any rashes or itchy bumps or whatever. There was always something going on in the past. But with this, none of those issues, and the shade was just heaven. So especially if you're fair skinned, I know not everybody likes gay beauty makeup, but they do a lot of really good things for pale skin, because it's starting to change a little bit, I find, but especially within a lot of Asian beauty brands, having pale skin is actually championed. It's why sunscreen is such a big thing. It's why everyone in Japan is walking around with their little sun umbrellas, because people really are about protecting their skin from the sun. They don't tan. So if you want something that's going to be super light, K-beauty is definitely a realm of makeup that I would explore a little bit more, especially if you struggle finding things at the European or US drugstore, because I feel that these products retail for roughly like Maybelline to L'Oreal prices. Again, within a lot of these Asian beauty brands, there is an array of price points as well. But the Misha one, I think, retails for about 15 euros, and chef's kiss every single time. But something that I've loved a little bit more recently is the Alicia Don't Touch Glass Pink Cushion. I was here for the first time that cushion foundations really made it to the European drugstore. I tried Maybelline and L'Oreal. I think I even had a like Asian beauty cushion at the time, but I really feel that I've tried so many more K-beauty cushion foundations that the technology has developed over the past decade. So I really love this. This one in particular, I don't know what it is about it. It's not a traditional cushion. It does have the little pad that you can use it with. I would also recommend not throwing these away. You need this to make the product work, okay? But this one works a little bit differently. I hope I can show you when it's not squirting onto my camera. I'll keep this in front of it so it doesn't leak anywhere. But it's got a little thing here, and you can press it. And when you press it, it comes out of the little holes, and then you have it onto the pad. whereas most cushion foundations will have a bit of mesh that has the product inside it. But I like this better because this doesn't dry out as quickly, whereas some cushion foundations can dry out super quickly. And then you just apply it like this, and you just press it onto the skin, and it's such a lovely product. This is in the shade 21N, and this shade is actually recommended for people with an olive skin tone. It doesn't look too green on me, I feel. It actually blends away quite nicely. Some people therefore think I have an olive undertone. I really don't. I've tried true olive toned foundations in the past, and those made me look green. I looked like the Hulk. It wasn't a good look. But this is really pretty. It's really nice, and because of the little pad that it comes with, super easy to apply. You don't even really need a brush with it if you don't want to. I do use a little bit of a brush to do a bit of touching up, because here in these nasal folds and stuff, it doesn't always like go there really nicely. So it really depends on the cushion you buy, what shape the little pad has that it comes with, but it makes it super easy to apply. And the best part, if you care about sustainability, this one can actually just be taken out. You can like click it out and you can buy a refill, so you don't have to buy the entire compact again. And the refills are usually a little bit cheaper than the full compact is. So this one I think is a really good one. And I really like the pink version of this. There's also a green one that still intrigues me. And finally, two of my favorite drugstore foundations. One was launched in 2025. The other one, I think, was discontinued in 2025. I can't find this anywhere anymore. But this is the Tinted Serum Foundation by Catrice. This is in the shade 004N. And this is, again, sort of like in between a foundation and a skin tint, I would say. It has, both of these actually have a bit of a pipette. Very often, if a foundation comes with a pipette, I'm like, ooh, I might like this. And this is really, really beautiful. And I think it was the first time where Catrice did a foundation that had a slightly more inclusive shade range. So that made me happy. But yeah, this is just really beautiful. It's very thin, very liquidy, very easy to apply. And again, a fairly good shade match. Even though all of these foundations have a different shade to them, I feel like it works quite well. So yeah, this Catrice one is just really lovely. It was cheap and cheerful, but as I said, I don't think you can still buy it. I haven't seen it in stores in like 6 months, so I think it was already taken off the market, which is usually the case with Catrice, but oh well. Fun fact, in Catrice's new range, they now do a green color corrector, very similar to the Arborian one, which intrigues me. So I'll try that at some point for you guys. But this is the Kiko Skin Lover Foundation, and if you've been with my channel, you know this was in my end of year favorites of 2025. I fell in love with this. This was in my Shop My Stash at the same time as I was still trying to use up my Armani Luminous Silk in the original formula, because that's been reformulated. And this is like the dewy version of the Armani Luminous Silk. It has the same wear time on me. It looks beautiful. Every single time I wore this in a video, there was someone in the comments going, "What's on your face? I love your skin today." It's always this. It's always this. This is a serum foundation as well. It's sort of like this skincare foundation hybrid. Mine is in 1CR, which could be the lightest shade. It does have a pretty good pinky tone. I think it's the most pink tone thing I have to show you today. Let me see if it comes out, because sometimes the pipette doesn't work, but that works quite well. And this is so beautiful on, and it instantly became my new favorite foundation. It's why, like, when I was testing this out, like a month later, I just wanted to keep it in my Shop My Stash because I loved it so much. And even though Kiko isn't a drugstore brand in the traditional sense, I do feel that Kiko retails for a very similar price point for me compared to like a Maybelline or a foundation. I believe this foundation retails for about 20 euros on the Kiko website. If you have a Kiko store near you, you can visit them there as well. And the Maybelline Skin Tint and L'Oreal foundation that I mentioned previously in the video are around that price point as well. The Maybelline Skin Tint retails here in the Netherlands for 20 euros, and the L'Oreal Skin Tint actually retails for 25. So if you know anything about like drugstore pricing, to me, anything under 20 euros feels like it's still drugstore. And anything higher than that, it's like too much already going into a Sephora realm. So that's why with the Maybelline and L'Oreal, as much as I love those formulas because they're not my shades, I just didn't love them enough, and that's why I already decluttered those. So they're no longer in my collection. But yeah, if those shades do match you, those are really good products. But yeah, these are the things that are in my collection that work for me. And I hope I was able to explain to you why they work for me and why I think they may be lovely for you as well if you do have a fair skin tone. So when it comes to foundation and you do have super fair skin, I would say shade match, formula, application. That's going to be your holy trinity of steps to take when it comes to making sure your makeup looks its best. Go in light layers when you apply. Look for formulas that go with your skin type and that have a bit of glow to it so that the light can distract from any texture you might have, and try to find something that's close enough to your shade. And don't go too dark, and don't think, oh, but I self-tan all the time. No, try to embrace your natural pale skin. And I think that that's going to, if more people were to do that, it would be far like easier also to find like shades for pale skin, I find, because I think that's one of the reasons why there aren't more like really good pale skin options, is because we've been so conditioned to think that pale skin means we're ill. And so makeup companies sell slightly deeper foundation shades because then we look healthy. It's actually one of the things that put me off wearing foundation or like makeup to begin with. Before I ever really got into it, because I always saw people with these weird shade matches in like the late 90s and the early 2000s, because so many people had this like line by their ear and around their jawline, and it just completely threw me off. Like, I don't want to look like that, you know? So yeah, there's that for sure. So I hope if we can all embrace the way we just look naturally and just play with what we have, go with it rather than against it, is my motto. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching this video here. If you have any pale skin foundation recommendations, then leave them in the comments down below. Maybe you have other options that I haven't tried before because it's a brand that's difficult to get, and that way we can help each other in the comments. So leave that in the description box down below so you can help other people like you. And of course, if you do want to see more by me, I post 4 times a week on this channel. So there's lots more makeup content coming your way. I have a second channel. It's called Floating in Books, where I post vlogs, more lifestyle-y sort of things, as well as fashion and bookish content. And then I also have a TikTok and an Instagram. So you can find me wherever if you want to see how I do things. And I actually did film me applying this Lisa Eldridge foundation on my face today as well. So there is going to be a short up. Maybe it's already up by the time you're seeing this video. I don't know, because I'm filming it a little bit in advance. But there could already be a short, or it's coming very, very soon to this channel, where you can see me applying and exactly how I do it and what brush I use and all that. So that's something I also have in the works for you. So thanks so much for being here. Thumbs it up if you liked it, subscribe, and I hope to see you again in the next one.